In this session, we are going to solve some of the important questions that may appear in JAM or any other entrance exams. So the first question is hemoglobin is P a monomeric protein, Q an oligomeric protein, R a chromoprotein, S an allosteric protein. And the options are like this: A P and Q, B Q and S, C Q and R, and D Q R and S. So first we should know what is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is an iron-containing metalloprotein that transports oxygen in blood. So now let us look at the options. P, a monomeric protein. So what's monomeric protein? A monomeric protein is a protein that combine to form multimeric protein. So hemoglobin doesn't stand for P because hemoglobin doesn't combine with another hemoglobin and form another protein. So the option P is wrong. So the next one, Q, an oligomeric protein. Oligomeric protein means it's composed of more than one subunit, which is true in case of hemoglobin. And the next one is R, a chromoprotein. A chromoprotein means the protein that have pigment prosthetic group, and that's true in case of hemoglobin. And yes, an allosteric protein. Allosteric protein is a protein with multiple ligand binding sites that is present in hemoglobin for attaching with oxygen. So the option P is wrong and Q, R and S are true. So the option D is right in case of first question. So let us move on to the next question. If the molecular mass of an amino acid is 150 daltons, then the molecular mass of a tripeptide will be option A 450, option B 486, option C 504, and option D 414. So what is tripeptide? Two peptide bond formation between three amino acids gives us tripeptide. In this given question, the molecular mass of an amino acid is 150 daltons. That means for the formation of tripeptide we require 3 amino acids and its molecular mass becomes 150 into 3. But we have to keep in mind that for each of the peptide bond formation, one water molecule goes out. That means for the formation of two peptide bonds in tripeptide, two water molecule goes out. Therefore, the answer would be 150 into 3 minus 18 into 2. That gives us 414. And the correct option is D. That's 414 daltons. Let's look at the next question. It's a bit similar type of question. If one arginine has a molecular mass of 174 daltons, then what would be the molecular mass in daltons of a circular polymer of 38 arginines? Option A 6612, option B 5928, option C 5946, option D 7278 daltons. In the previous question, it was a linear tripeptide molecule, so only two peptide bonds were forming and two water molecules were going out. In this question, it's a circular polymer of 38 arginines, and hence 38 peptide bonds will be forming and 38 water molecules would be going out. So we have to calculate that like this: 174 into 38, that is 38 arginine molecules, and 174 daltons is the molecular mass of each arginine, minus 18 into 38, 38 water molecules, and 18 is the molecular mass of water. So the answer would be 5928. That's the option B. So in these type of questions, you have to keep in mind the loss of water molecules. Otherwise, the answer would be wrong. Now let's look at the next question. Which statement is true of both prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells? Let's look at the option. Option A. Prokaryotic cells are larger than eukaryotic cells. Option A is wrong because prokaryotic cells ranges from 0.1 micrometer to 5 micrometers, whereas eukaryotic cell ranges from 10 micrometers to 100 micrometers. So eukaryotic cells are larger than prokaryotic cells. Option B. Eukaryotic cells have ribosomes and prokaryotic cells do not have ribosomes. Option B is also wrong. Both prokaryotes and eukaryotes have ribosomes. In prokaryotes, ribosomes have three separate RNA molecules, whereas eukaryotes have four separate RNA molecules in their ribosomes. And the option C, both have DNA as their primary genetic material. The option C is right and true for both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Option D, eukaryotic cells have plasma membrane and prokaryotic cells do not have. But this is wrong. Both prokaryotes and eukaryotes have double large lipid membrane. So the option C is true for both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. And the next question, which is true for bacteria? So first we should know what is bacteria. Bacteria is an example for prokaryotic organisms that do not have membrane-bound organelles. So let us look at the options. A. Bacteria lack DNA, which is false because both prokaryotes and eukaryotes have DNA as their genetic material. Option B. Mitochondria and nuclear membrane is present. That's not true in case of bacteria that belongs to prokaryotes because prokaryotes do not have membrane-bound organelles. And option C, nucleoid is the region which contains DNA and it's true in case of bacteria. And option D, RNA acts as genetic material. It's not true because DNA acts as genetic material in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So the correct option is C. The next question, primary active transport. There are four sentences and you have to choose the right ones. P requires carrier proteins. Q transports solutes against concentration gradient. R coupled to ATP hydrolysis. S driven by movement of a co-transported ion down its gradient. So now let us look at what is primary active transport. Transportation across plasma membrane is divided into two types. First one, passive transport, where there is no use of metabolic energy, and the second one is active transport. Active transport is again divided into two types, primary active transport and secondary active transport. The primary active transport uses metabolic energy, that is ATP, to transport solutes against concentration gradient. So let us look at the sentences. The first one requires carrier proteins. That's true in case of primary active transport. Q transport solutes against concentration gradient, that defines the primary active transport. Option R coupled to ATP hydrolysis. S, it's true because it needs ATP as metabolic energy. And yes, driven by movement of co-transported ion down its gradient, and it's false, it doesn't require co-transported ions for its movement. And the sentences P, Q, and R are true and S is wrong, and the option A satisfies the question. Now let us look at another question on the topic active transport. And the question is like this. When an ion or solute is moved against a concentration gradient using energy, the process is called. So this is a definition of active transport. And the options are like this. A. Diffusion. B. Transport. C. Active transport. And D. Regulated diffusion. So it's a simple question and the right answer is C. Active transport. Let us look at other options. Option A. Diffusion. This means the movement of molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration. Option B, transport. It is the overall movement or transport of any molecules. And regulated diffusion is a sort of diffusion. So the question is the definition of active transport. Let's move on to the next question. The question is like this. Binding of oxygen to hemoglobin occurs when Fe, that's iron, is in the following oxidation state. Option A, press 1, option B, press 2, option C, press 3, and option D, press 4. It's a simple question. Now let's understand what is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a complex molecule where iron or Fe is bound to 4 nitrogen atoms. To bind to oxygen, iron or Fe in hemoglobin must be present in press2 oxidation state. So the option B is right in case of this question. And that's all in this video. If you like these types of videos, please comment down below and also like, share and subscribe to my channel. Sign Knowledge Transfer. Signing off.